So
coming
isn't it
up.
more that 77% of black babies are born out of wedlock?
It could be, depends on that 77%. But I'm not going to say all babies that are born out of wedlock is immoral.
Is it immoral that babies that are born out of wedlock? Is it immoral for babies to be born out of wedlock?
Well, Jesus was born out of wedlock. Was that immoral?
Is it immoral for black babies to be born out of wedlock?
Not all of them. I wouldn't say that.
So there are times to have babies out of wedlock and it's not an immoral thing?
Look at Jesus.
What? A pastor questioning Jesus's birth, questioning if Jesus's birth was immoral? This is strange. I mean, coming from a pastor, it's funny. These pastors, I wonder if they're truly called, where they get their training, theology training from. Welcome everybody. My name is Roland. Welcome to another very interesting installment of Culture War. I wanted to go straight into the video. I'll give you my take. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please make sure you do so and hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. Let's get straight into it.
I have with me Dr. David Anderson. He is a pastor, author, and host of the TV/radio show Real Talk with Dr. David Anderson. Pastor Anderson, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. How are you today?
All is well. I appreciate you being here. How long have you been a pastor?
27 years.
All right. And were you called by God?
I was.
But I want to ask, you said that you were called by God, right?
Absolutely.
So you didn't have to go to school to be a preacher?
I did. I mean, I have a doctorate degree. I'm Dr. David Anderson.
But why did you have to go to school if you were called by God?
It's not a have to. It was a want to. And it was a privilege.
But why, though, did you have to? Why did you even want to if you were called by God?
Because I wanted to be equipped. I wanted to be educated and equipped.
And you didn't think God was capable of equipping you?
Absolutely. You see, when you're called, you're appointed and anointed by God. But to ever think that because you're called, you don't need to educate yourself and you don't need to add to your learning is really just arrogance and pride if you have the opportunity to do so. Now, if I didn't have the opportunity to do so, if I didn't have the resources to do so, would God still anoint me and equip me? Of course. But you don't think education is good no matter what one's calling is?
I don't understand that if a person is called, a man is called by God to be a pastor, why wouldn't God also educate and equip him? You are now being controlled by what is right, and you have the Spirit inside of you to teach you and educate you on everything. Why would you need some human being to do that when you are called by God? That means he got your back.
This is fact. This is fact. Because I don't know why I see a lot of pastors or men of God who claim to be men of God. They claim to be called by God, but they still need to go to some kind of school for their fellow men to teach them how to go about God's business. The truth is that if you're called by God, God will actually give you all the equipment and all the tools that you need for you to carry out his work. So I on this one, I agree with Jesse. Let's continue with the video.
Yeah, I don't think you go either or on this, Jesse. That sounds really interesting that you would think that. So in that case, I didn't even need to go to elementary school. I didn't need to learn how to read.
Were you called by God as a kid?
If I'm called by God, he could just...
Were you called by him as a kid or something?
I was 18 years old. I was a teenager.
Oh, so you did have to go to administrative school because at that time you were not called by God, right? That's why you had to go to school.
I didn't have to. It's a choice that I made. I have a freedom of choice. I wanted to get educated.
You do agree that most black people are leading the way to destruction. They're not. Ever since that phony civil rights movement thing happened, black people fell into a fallen state and they have never recovered. And it wasn't like that prior to the so-called civil rights movement. You do agree to that, right?
I'm not sure if I would agree that we lead the way in that. I mean, we may have to disagree on that.
And why?
Unless you want to say, white people led the way because of slavery, because of hanging people like you and me.
I was never hanged. They didn't hang me.
Yeah, but they hung your ancestors.
No, they did not.
They didn't?
So
you don't have nobody in your lineage that has ever been abused by white slavery?
This pastor is very, very insufferable. Can you imagine someone still believing that the effects of slavery is still affecting him? You know, he believes that the white people enslaved the black people. Look, newsflash, white people were also slaves at some point in time in history. You know, Cain killed Abel. Adam was the first man. Cain killed Abel. Abel was also Adam was our first father, and Abel was our father. And going back in history, and Cain killed Abel. We don't know if Abel was black or white or whatever, but Cain killed Abel. So let descendants of Abel seek for reparations from the descendants of Cain. Now, who are the descendants of Cain? You see, you can go on, or if you keep going back in history, and keep um, you know, um, just keep not holding on to the past, and not just forgetting about the past, and living in the moment, in the present right now. Because the reality of the present right now is that there's no longer slavery. We're all free. We all have the same equal rights, and we all of us all bleed red. There's nothing like black or white and all that. But you see a pastor who's supposed to be a Christian, who's supposed to be more magnanimous, supposed to have what we call forgiving spirits. You can see he's still into that blackness, and blackness is all about unforgiveness. Blackness is all about, yes, getting revenge or getting one over the white man and all that kind of stuff. So it's just crazy when I see a pastor do this. Let's continue with the video.
Most of I do remember a situation, but most of the abuse have come from other black people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I believe that you can have abuse from black people. I believe that.
Yeah.
But I believe that it's not intellectually honest
What's
to
not
say
intellectual?
somehow black people have led an immoral culture and white people have not. I don't think that's honest.
I'm not saying that some white people have not and are not immoral, but for the black community, most black people are immoral. Is it immoral to have?
I can't say most.
Is it immoral that between 73 and 77% of black babies are born out of wedlock to black women who are citizens of this country? Is that immoral?
That's a real problem.
Is it immoral?
It can be immoral if people are just having babies out of wedlock, whether it's Hispanics or whites or blacks.
So is it immoral that 77% of black babies are born out of wedlock?
It could be. Depends on that 77%. But I'm not going to say all babies that are born out of wedlock is immoral.
Is it immoral that babies that are born out of wedlock, is it immoral for babies to be born out of wedlock?
Well, Jesus was born out of wedlock. Was that immoral?
Is it immoral for black babies to be born out of wedlock?
Not all of them. I wouldn't say that.
So there are times to have babies out of wedlock and it's not an immoral thing?
Look at Jesus.
Is it time for black babies there is a time for black babies to be born out of wedlock, and you would say that that's not immoral?
I would say it's immoral to have sex outside of marriage. And then if you have children out of wedlock, that's not the sin. The sin is having sex outside of marriage. So is it immoral then if a woman decides to have a baby because she was immoral making the decision, then she got pregnant? Are you telling me that it's immoral for her to have the baby, or would it be immoral for her to kill the baby through abortion?
Repeat that. I'm sorry. Repeat that question again.
The immoral act is not having the baby out of wedlock. The immoral act is having sex outside of marriage. Now, if the person gets pregnant, okay, it's not immoral for them to give birth to the child. It's immoral if they kill the child. So you can't say that women having babies out of wedlock is immoral, but you can say that having sex outside of wedlock is immoral.
It's immoral.
Otherwise, you got to look at all the scriptures of the women that have given babies who weren't married.
It's
like
immoral. It's immoral to have sex out of wedlock, and it's immoral to have babies out of wedlock.
So what do you do? Abort them?
You wait until you get married to even have sex.
Right, but are you saying that she should abort the baby if she's pregnant?
What I'm saying is that she should wait until she get married. A decent woman would wait until she got married to have sex.
And a decent man would as well. But my point is, if they already break that rule for whatever reason, are you saying that it's immoral for her to go ahead and have the baby?
No, it's evil to have an abortion, but
it's immoral to have the child.
it's immoral to have sex out of wedlock. It's immoral. It's evil to have an abortion.
So what about having the child?
And the child that's born out of wedlock is a more immoral act as well. It shows that the woman has no character.
So you either have to be evil and have an abortion, or be immoral and have the child.
Well, you're immoral for having a child out of wedlock, and then you're evil for killing the child in the womb. But I want to ask, you agree with that, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? And as a preacher, you're saying that Jesus was born out of wedlock?
I'm saying that when Jesus was conceived, Mary and Joseph were not married.
And what's your point? Are you saying he was born out of wedlock?
Well, if Mary and Joseph finally did get married, then he wouldn't have been born out of wedlock. But Hagar, for instance, was born out of wedlock because of what happened in her life. And what I'm saying is, if you just say that a woman who is impregnated, but she's not married, I'm not really trying to argue that women should get impregnated. So let me make it clear. I'm not trying to say that women should be impregnated when they're not married. I'm just saying that when you kind of have a broad brush comment that basically says all women that are having children out of wedlock are immoral or maybe evil, I think that's too strong.
They are immoral. These women who are having these babies out of wedlock are immoral women. They are not decent women. But I want to go back.
We can disagree on that.
Yeah, I want to go back. Are you saying that Jesus was born out of wedlock because Joseph didn't have sex with her?
Was Joseph married to Jesus when Jesus was born?
Are you saying that Jesus was born out of wedlock because Joseph didn't have sex with her?
I'm saying that they were betrothed to be married, right? And Joseph did not have sex with her.
I just want to get that comment clear. Are you saying Jesus was born out of wedlock because Joseph didn't have sex with her?
Because they were not officially married, but they were betrothed to be married when she was with child.
And so was Jesus born out of wedlock?
The question is, was Joseph and Mary?
I know you made that statement. I just want to be clear about the statement you made. Are you saying Jesus was born out of wedlock?
No.
Oh, you're not. But you did say that, right?
If you can. Well, earlier I did say that, but the question is, how do you see marriage in that scripture? For instance, in that day, hang on, let me finish. In that day when they were betrothed to be married, some would see that as marriage. Others would see that as engagement. So it depends on how you want to interpret that. But my point is not simply that he's born in wedlock or out of wedlock. My point is, do you demonize Mary because she was not married when she was impregnated?
My concern is, why would you bring up or even say that Jesus was born out of wedlock when we were talking about these immoral women who are having these babies out of wedlock? What does one have to do with the other?
Calling all women immoral for having a child out of wedlock is something I don't agree with.
You don't agree that all women who have babies out of wedlock are immoral?
I do not.
Would a moral woman have a baby out of wedlock?
I think she could.
Why? How?
Let me ask you this question.
Answer that for me. How would a moral woman have a baby out of wedlock?
If my father was born to a woman who was raped, which is true in my family, are you calling my great-grandmother immoral because she chose to have the baby?
But now you've added drama to the story.
It's not drama. It's
how
true.
would a moral woman?
I'm talking about fact.
How would a moral
family? You calling my mother, great-grandmother, immoral?
If that happened, you're talking about a situation that was beyond her control. But these women,
would agree that all women out of wedlock is not immoral.
But these women are laying up now, having sex out of wedlock and having babies out of wedlock with no shame. But I want to move on.
All women. How can you say all women? I just gave you an example of one in my life.
But you
got to
gave
stop
me an
saying all.
example of a woman you said were raped. We didn't mention rape women. We're talking about the women who
She's
are.
still impregnated.
We're talking about women who have
She's still
sex.
impregnated.
Women
Is
who
she
has.
immoral because she had a baby out of wedlock? That's my
We're
question.
talking about women who have sex out of wedlock, not women who were raped.
That's
That's a
still
different.
sex.
That's a different story.
That's still sex.
Wow, what a pastor. I don't know why, like Jesse said, why he had to bring up the issue of Jesus when Jesse was strictly talking about how immoral the black women, basically talking about the women in the black community are. Why he brings up Jesus in the first place. Jesus is God in the first place. Jesus is not to be compared. Jesus is sinless. And let's not forget that Joseph never had intercourse with Mary. So it was not an immoral birth. So that knocks that argument off, because the birth of Jesus was never ever in question. And it was never in question at all, and was never immoral, because Joseph, I repeat, Joseph and Mary never had sex, so that nullifies what he said. So then going to the aspect of rape, when like his own aspect, he talked about rape, and that's not the subject anyway. But when there's a rape case, at the same time, you can't still abort the child. You have to keep the child, because who knows what that child is going to turn out to be. Okay, if you can't take care of the child, you could adopt that. You could give that child away for adoption. There are foster cares that you can send the child to go to be fostered if you feel like maybe you don't want to keep that child for whatever reason. So there's no excuse for being immoral, having sex before, prior to marriage, or giving birth to a child before marriage, and also there's no excuse for abortion. Nevertheless, if you find yourself in a situation where maybe you found yourself in a fallen state, like Jesse always says, and you're a lady and you get pregnant and you have the child, don't abort the child. Yes, that period, what you have to do is just to repent, be remorseful, but never do it again. Like Jesse, you see Jesse's case, he had a child out of wedlock, and since that's the only child he had, and he's never done it again. God will always show you mercy when you fall, provided you go to him and ask for mercy and ask for forgiveness. But when you try to claim that you are still righteous or doing the right thing, even when you're being immoral, like this pastor is trying to kind of encourage immorality in a way, even though he said he's not, but that's what he's doing, because it's good. Basically, what he's saying is going to be encouraging a lot of people to be moral when it comes to giving birth to children outside wedlock, outside marriage. So tell me your thoughts. I'd like to know your thoughts. Drop it in your comment section. I'd like to react to your thoughts. I'll drop another video very soon. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. My name is Roland. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.